Dobar jutro, Good morning. A few short months ago, I arrived in Vilnius. I knew very little about you at that time, other than where you came from, why you left, and that you hoped to one day return to your home in Minsk, the home of my grandparents. I knew your life had been difficult, and it continued to be so. I could see the troubles surrounded you, and political phrases and democratic cliches had become a poor and dangerous substitute for reason and wisdom. As often happens, politics, the art of postponing decisions until they are no longer relevant, can easily become commonplace. Against all of this, in my eyes, you are heroic. Not only did I immediately respect you, but I liked you as well. Regardless of how confused you were about me and my new, unexpected presence. I thought you brave, and I thought you good. In your dedication to your students, and in return, you have been kind and respectful towards me. For all this, I'm deeply grateful. My friends, for the past 6 months, I've watched and tried to learn. During this period, I have said more than I had intended to, but much less than what was possible. And I've learned more than I would have thought. I have felt your communal frustrations with some sadness, while all the time wishing to be helpful in my own way. Now, it is my sincere hope that today we can together begin to celebrate the building of a fresh and collective spirit as we hear and think about the future and our lives together. Last week, Anatoly and I stood together at the foot of the Thomas Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C. We looked up and each read Jefferson's words carved on the wall. We then turned, smiled to one another in silent understanding. They read, "I am not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind as that becomes more developed, more enlightened as new discoveries are made, new truths are discovered as manners and options change. With the change of circumstances, institutions must advance, also to keep pace with the times. We might as well require that man still wear the coat which fitted him when he was a boy, as civilized society to remain ever under the regime of their barbarous ancestors. With the change of circumstances, institutions must advance also to keep pace with the times. Such is the moment for EHU. How are we to understand our new circumstances? What is urgently being called for? How are we to understand and model for our students the true nature of a mature, democratically responsible community? It's been my experience that there are few words used more but understood less than those associated with democratic cultures. Democracy, representation, transparency, rights, responsibilities, unencumbered free speech. Each is spoken with almost a sacred expectation that we should immediately bow our heads in conceptual obedience, with nothing more needing to be said, regardless of the circumstance. Like the lovely little prayers we teach to our children, they are only the most basic of building blocks for understanding the nature and operation of a free and open society. If we have learned anything in the recent post-totalitarian years of Eastern and Central Europe, it should be that democracy is not a suit of clothes a society can simply put on and take off, or perhaps even should. You've already heard that in recognition of EHU's evolution and present circumstance, it was time to revise and modify the university's statutes. Following on input from numerous sources, both from within and from out the university, this now has been accomplished. In addition to the structural changes you have thus far heard about, I would like to briefly talk about the bold initiative to expand and strengthen the democratic and participatory culture of the university, EHU's greatest birthright, for which you have all sacrificed so very much. As I mentioned, there is significant confusion regarding the words and slogans of democracy, and this is particularly the case in misunderstandings that frequently accompany efforts to emulate Western higher education institutions. No place is this more in evidence than in the use and misapplication of the terms shared governance and self-governance. Simply put, they are not the same thing. And they each belong to very different kinds of academic cultures and periods. Each phrase has its own heritage and acquired meaning. Self-governance, particularly within universities, is clearly associated with the acquisition, maintenance, and extension of political power. Do you hear Machiavelli in these words? Independence and autonomy are its cultural trademarks, oftentimes resulting from the issues which one related to the role of the state and the church. Since faculty in such governance cultures assume no financial operational responsibility whatsoever for the overall health of the institution, self-governance is closely tied to academic freedom and administrative control set within a political arena, or in other words, power. Financing is assumed as a social entitlement, which is not the faculty's concern. The resultant effect can easily become a we-they culture, suspended in a delicate balance between competing forces of faculty and administration, each vying for control. Self-governance within universities holds as its central values, on the other hand, community built upon knowledge and humility. It assumes that the university is led at all levels simultaneously throughout the institution by those who are competent in the issue at hand. For example, one day while serving as president of the Art Institute of Chicago, the water pipes broke in my office. Dressed in a suit and tie, much like I am today, I called for one of the plumbers to come and repair the leaking pipes. On hands and knees, he attacked the problem with enthusiasm and clear knowledge of his trade. While making the repair, he continually asked, let's just say he ordered me, to hand him tools and rags as he went about his business. Now let us ask ourselves the question, at this moment in the life of one of the finest art institutions in the entire world, who is president? I would argue, as did Socrates in the Apology, that is the person with the knowledge necessary to solve the problem at hand, the plumber. This is the essence of shared governance. What is called for is the willingness on the part of each member of the community to acknowledge one another's abilities and expertise, the combination of knowledge and humility. Let us now ask ourselves, which model of governance do we prefer? And further, which model best embodies the values of respect for the individual, encouraging open and free thought? This is the thinking that has led EHU's Board of Governors to review and revise the university's governance structure and its statutes, giving rights and responsibilities to those persons within the community most qualified to make judgments and decisions appropriate to their knowledge, experience, and acceptance of responsibility, whether it be faculty, staff, or administration. In such a model, it can truly be said that governance is shared. Furthermore, the expansion of participation within the community is essential to such a philosophy. First modeled at Oxford and Cambridge, the homes of liberal arts education. All faculty, having a primary and significant commitment to the university, are members of the decision-making body. All faculty. Thus, those with a contract of 75% and above are automatically voting members of the Senate, more than doubling our faculty's past participation. Additionally, the student body will now be represented by 5 representatives. And the establishment of a new elected staff council. The entire EHU community will have a voice in both the university's present and future. All this is particularly important for an institution of EHU's modest size and celebrates the university's deep and strong commitment to democratic principles, both in thought and action. Further, joint faculty administrative initiatives will immediately follow the expansion of our Senate. A faculty handbook outlining faculty and administrative rights and responsibilities, and a similar document for students will become companion pieces to our statutes. These documents will be jointly developed and with the full cooperation and participation of faculty and administration and students. In the weeks and the months ahead, EHU will rededicate itself to the questions and values that led to its original founding. Much has transpired in the world and in this university since that time, but nothing has occurred that has anything but reinforced the European Humanities University's reason for being. Quite the contrary. Developing societies, not only in Belarus, but throughout the world, are deeply in need of EHU's voice and educational guidance. In the words of EHU's founder and now president, Anatoly Mikhailov, let us all recommit ourselves to not only our students and our society's transformation, but to the transformation of ourselves as well. Thank you.